A U.S. court just dealt a major blow to Washington's tariff strategy. Canadian visits to America have dropped sharply, costing billions in tourism revenue. And Germany is strengthening partnerships that could reduce dependence on the United States altogether. What was supposed to pressure allies and strengthen America's negotiating position may now be producing consequences few expected. Your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald. From courtrooms and airports to supply chains and future EV investments, we're breaking down the developments reshaping trade, tourism, and the automotive industry across North America. Tariff strategy collapses. Courts deliver stunning blow. One of the most significant setbacks to Washington's trade agenda this year did not originate overseas. It came from within the United States itself. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that President Trump's use of Section 122 tariff authority was unlawful, creating new uncertainty for businesses that rely on stable trade rules. For automakers, suppliers, and manufacturers, that matters enormously because tariffs affect everything from steel and aluminum costs to vehicle pricing and component sourcing. Judges argued that Section 122 was created for a very different economic era and was never intended to address modern trade disputes. They also warned that accepting such a broad interpretation could effectively grant nearly unlimited tariff authority to the presidency. For the automotive sector, which depends on globally integrated supply chains stretching across Canada, Mexico, Europe, and Asia, sudden policy shifts can disrupt years of planning and billions in investment. But while courts are challenging tariff policy from inside the United States, a much more visible reaction is unfolding beyond Washington, and it is now showing up in airports, highways, hotels, and tourism centers across the country. Canada's boycott surges, U.S. tourism takes massive hit. The economic consequences are no longer confined to trade negotiations. They are appearing in airports, hotels, highways, restaurants, and tourism centers throughout the United States. Canada's consumer pullback has evolved into one of the largest sustained reductions in cross-border spending in recent memory, with Canadian visits to the U.S. reportedly falling by roughly 21% during 2025. The effects are spreading quickly. Airlines have reduced routes and capacity, while destinations heavily dependent on Canadian visitors, including Orlando, Las Vegas, Fort Lauderdale, and Niagara Falls, are reporting softer demand. For automotive enthusiasts, the implications extend beyond tourism. Fewer travelers mean reduced fuel purchases, lower rental vehicle demand, less airport transportation activity, and weaker revenue across sectors connected to mobility. Perhaps most notable is that surveys suggest the trend may not be temporary. Growing support for Buy Canadian campaigns and declining interest in U.S. travel indicate a broader shift in consumer behavior. Ironically, policies intended to pressure Canada appear to be generating visible economic strain in several American communities instead. Yet the story does not end with fewer Canadians crossing the border. While some American regions are feeling the impact of reduced tourism, Canada is simultaneously redirecting investment, travel spending, and industrial growth toward new opportunities. Canada pivots fast. New industries fuel economic rise. While parts of the United States are dealing with weaker inbound tourism, Canada is moving aggressively to diversify both its economy and international partnerships. Rather than retreating under trade pressure, Canadian consumers and businesses are redirecting spending toward domestic industries and alternative global markets. Travel patterns are changing as more Canadians vacation within Canada or choose destinations in Mexico and Europe instead of the United States. For automotive enthusiasts, the bigger story is Canada's growing role in future transportation technologies. The country possesses substantial reserves of lithium, nickel, cobalt, and other critical minerals needed for EV batteries. Investments in battery manufacturing, artificial intelligence, aerospace, and advanced supply chains continue accelerating. As automakers seek reliable long-term partners, Canada's combination of resource security, political stability, and industrial investment is increasingly attracting global attention and potentially reshaping future manufacturing decisions. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this analysis, take a moment to subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth coverage of the automotive industry, global manufacturing trends, and the economic developments shaping the future of transportation. And Canada is not the only country reassessing old economic relationships. Across the Atlantic, Germany is increasingly advocating for broader partnerships that could reshape global supply chains and reduce reliance on traditional power centers. Germany looks elsewhere. New alliances leave US behind. One of the most surprising developments has been Germany's increasingly vocal support for broader international partnerships that reduce dependence on any single economic power. German leaders have emphasized resilience, diversification, and stronger cooperation with countries including Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, India, Indonesia, and members of the Mercosur bloc. For the automotive industry, these discussions carry major implications. Manufacturers such as Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi rely on stable access to energy, semiconductors, battery materials, and industrial metals. Any effort to diversify supply chains could influence where future factories, battery plants, and technology investments are located. European policymakers increasingly view economic diversification as a matter of strategic security rather than simple trade policy. Combined with ongoing tariff disputes and changing consumer behavior, these developments suggest that nations are building wider networks of cooperation. The result could be a global industrial landscape that is more interconnected, more diversified, and potentially less centered on traditional economic relationships. Taken individually, each of these developments may appear manageable, but when viewed together, they reveal a broader pattern that could redefine trade, manufacturing, investment, and automotive supply chains for years to come. Verdict: global realignment accelerates beyond Washington's reach. What started as a tariff dispute has evolved into something far larger. Court rulings are challenging long-standing trade strategies, Canadian consumers are altering spending and travel habits, and major allies are strengthening alternative economic partnerships. For the automotive sector, these shifts matter because modern vehicles depend on global supply chains, advanced technology, critical minerals, and international investment. The key question is whether these changes represent temporary adjustments or the beginning of a lasting realignment. If current trends continue, future EV production networks, battery supply chains, aerospace projects, and advanced manufacturing investments could look very different by the end of the decade. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe these trade and tourism shifts are temporary, or are they becoming permanent? Could Canada emerge as an even bigger player in future EV and battery production? How might changing global partnerships affect the vehicles we buy and drive in the years ahead? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We always enjoy hearing from fellow enthusiasts and industry watchers. If you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest vehicle updates, industry developments, and automotive insights. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.